Music Man. I've seen whatever. I've seen the nun. They all
with the nun, Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. Yep. So I guess we can start. All right. So let's start with prayer. Jack, why don't you lead us in prayer, please?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
Amen.
Amen.
Our Father, who
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Amen.
Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who hath not walked in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stood in the way of sinners, nor sat in the chair of pestilence. But his will is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he shall meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree which is planted near the running waters, which shall bring forth its fruit in due season. And his leaf shall not fall off, and all whatsoever he shall do shall prosper. Not so the wicked, not so, but like dust, which the wind driveth from the face of the earth. Therefore the wicked shall not rise again in judgment, nor sinners in the counsel of the just. For the Lord knoweth the way of the just, and the way of the wicked shall perish. And may Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Thank you, Jack. Now, everybody knows what Jack was reading from, right? The Psalms. It's in the Old Testament. Majority of them were written by King David. And there's 150 of them, which is the basis of what has 150 beads? The Rosary. Right. So the Psalms, the 150 Psalms, and Jack read or proclaimed, proclaimed one of the Psalms. That's how the Rosary came about, with the 150 beads, the 5 decades of the Hail Mary and the Our Father. And that came about because in monastic communities,
What's monastic?
Monastic is where religious men and women live, whether convent for women, but it can also be called a monastery. Monastery for men, priests and brothers. And so they prayed the Psalms 7 times a day, the Liturgy of the Hours, which Father Mark was talking about last week, that a priest is obliged to pray the Liturgy of the Hours every day. And 7 times a day. It comes from the New Testament when Jesus prayed always before he did anything, he prayed. Something that we should do, and we're going to have that season opening up to us about prayer. And so the lay people, while they were working out in the fields or doing their task, whatever, most of them were illiterate. It was in the monasteries that the priests and the brothers and the sisters, the religious women, could read. And so they wanted a way to join in the prayers of the monastic communities. And that's where we came up with the Our Father and the Hail Marys, because people knew those and didn't have to know the Psalms because they couldn't read. And so during their day, when the bell would ring, calling the monks and the priests and the religious to the time of prayer, the lay people could pull out a rosary, or at the time, before they even had the rosary, they would keep 150 pebbles in their pocket. So as they said each prayer, they transferred the one pebble to the other pebble, and that's how they knew that they had prayed the 150 prayers. And then St. Dominic, and Leonard's going to do a wonderful class on the rosary. St. Dominic is the one who promoted the praying of the rosary, because Our Lady gave him that message that he was to promote the rosary. And now there are many different types of rosaries. Cindy, when she went back to do her Kansas to do the Our Lady of Fatima, she thought the rosary was effective because it was the chaplet of the 7 sorrows of Mary. And she thought, something's wrong with this rosary. And then she realized after she prayed it that it's not the same rosary with the 5 decades that we have. And a lot of the religious orders Franciscans, Dominicans, Jesuits, the Marians of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. They have also been given rosaries that they pray that are not like the ones that we pray. So there are various types of beads and the prayers that go with them. They always involve the Our Father and the Hail Mary. The Chaplet of Mercy, you use a rosary, but you're praying a different wording given to Saint Faustina by our Lord Jesus Christ when he appeared to her. So, thank you, Jack. The Psalms, if you've never read the Psalms, try. It is beautiful language. It's the second reading that you hear at Mass. The first reading is from the Old Testament. The second reading is from the Psalms. At 10 o'clock Mass, it's cantored by Ralph. At the other Masses also, but I think Ralph is special. And then the third reading is from the New Testament, and then deacon or the priest will proclaim the gospel from the New Testament. So you hear the Psalms when you go to Mass on Sunday. You hear if you go to daily Mass, there's a first reading, the Psalm, and then the gospel. And it is beautiful. Father was talking about the Liturgy of the Hours. If you're interested in praying the Liturgy of the Hours, I can help you there. At one time, when Father Gregory was here, and there were some Deacon Jim Nunez, who, God rest his soul, he was our deacon at the time. He would, before daily Mass, we didn't have Tuesday and Wednesday night Mass. We had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning. And we would pray morning prayer before Mass. And it was Teresa Ramirez, God rest her soul, deacon. Sometimes Father Greg would join us. Tom Duda was another one. There was a group of us that would pray the Liturgy of the Hours, morning prayer. So I have a really great book, which Tony's wife Patty borrowed and read, about Liturgy of the Hours for Dummies, and how to, it's very simple but complex. Is that how you would say it, Jack?
Yeah, it's very daunting in the beginning because it's like so many different ribbons.
Yeah, and
you
you're
go
back
different
and
days,
forth.
different months.
Yes.
But then you
And
learn it's like second nature.
4 weeks, week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there are evening prayer. There are 7 times a day. So in a monastic community, they pray 7 times a day. When Father was talking about it, Greg and I have some favorites. The Poor Clares up in Los Altos Hills, who are cloistered, meaning they don't talk to the outside world, but Greg has a special relationship with them, and the Mother Superior talks to him. So they get up 7 times a day, and even in the middle of the night, when I am safely in bed, nice and warm, thinking, I would not do it. But these cloistered sisters and religious men in monasteries gather together, the Benedictines, the Dominicans, all these different religious orders, and they pray as a community in the middle of the night, even if they're in Oklahoma, like the Benedictines at Clear Creek Abbey, where it snows. And their cloister is made out of stone, okay? But they get up, have their hoods on, Benedictines, and they gather in the chapel, and they pray 7 times a day. So that is part of monastic life. Okay, some Catholic history, which is, the more Catholic you are, and the longer you've been Catholic, okay, because I'm older than he is, there is such a richness to the Catholic faith. The devotions, the history, the trivia is just incredible, And I've got lots of books, if you're interested in lots of books, about things in the church, the devotions, the calendar, the liturgical year, the sacramentals, the sacraments. It's just as Greg said about diving into, what's your phrase about diving into the deepest, bottomless pool?
Oh, the strength of your faith in accordance with it. If you go to the desert and it rains real hard, like even in Death Valley, you get a lake. But as soon as it starts warming up, that lake just disappears and then the earth cracks. If it's deeper, that's the strength of your faith. And the knowledge of Catholic faith gives you that depth. So that when it gets really hot, the depth may shallow up a little bit, but there's still a whole bunch below you. That's the difference between us
Right,
and those faiths that don't have quite the length of history that we've been blessed with.
2,000 years. All right, we have a guest tonight, okay, who has come to invite us to something very special. Sandra Parashika is the head of the Guadalupanas, and her husband and her sons and daughter came through the RCIA and for confirmation. And so she's an old friend of ours. So we're going to welcome her and the Guadalupanas special mission, because you know, Our Lady of Guadalupe, whose image is on the back wall, is the patroness of the unborn. All right? She appeared to Juan Diego as a pregnant woman, and she is the patroness of the unborn. And so the Guadalupanas have a special devotion to her. And Sandra is going to talk about that.
Yes, I am. Thank